China is definitely not an ally of Russia. I mean, this friends without limits, that was BS. But I think China.
When a military exercise becomes a geopolitical storm, Russia and Belarus mass troops at NATO's doorstep, Poland shuts down its border crossings, and China suddenly finds its billion-dollar trade routes under threat. What was supposed to intimidate Poland may now be backfiring badly on Moscow and dragging Beijing into the fallout. Russia and Belarus launched Zapad 2025, a series of joint military drills that kicked off on September 12th and are scheduled to run until September 16th. The word Zapad literally means west, and these exercises are held every 4 years to test readiness against what Moscow describes as Western threats. According to reporting from Reuters, the drills this year are far smaller than in 2021, when around 200,000 troops were mobilized across Belarus and Western Russia. In contrast, estimates for 2025 range from only 8,000 to 10,000 soldiers, with just about 1,000 Russian troops taking part alongside Belarusian units. Analysts point to this steep decline as clear evidence of Russia's manpower shortages following more than 3 years of war in Ukraine. But smaller numbers don't mean smaller tensions. Poland, which shares a 400-kilometer border with Belarus, announced that it would close all border crossings, including key rail links, starting September 9th, days before the exercise began. Prime Minister Donald Tusk told reporters, "We cannot allow potential provocations or threats to spill over." This move immediately stranded more than 1,500 vehicles at border points, according to Polish customs officials cited by Euronews. On top of that, Warsaw deployed 40,000 soldiers to reinforce its eastern frontier. For context, this is one of Poland's largest peacetime troop mobilizations in decades, reflecting its deep concerns that Zapad 2025 is not just defensive training, but a rehearsal for offensive action against a NATO state.
Well, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has described European concerns about these drills as emotional overload. Some might see that brushing aside of those concerns as an indication that they are in fact valid.
Well, Peskov repeatedly said that the drills were not aimed at any particular country and then other countries have nothing to worry. However, Europe, and especially here Baltic states, have every right to be concerned. Because in past, Russia often used military drills as a preparation for real military aggression, like full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 followed the exercises in 2021. So NATO's eastern flank members Poland, Lithuania and Latvia are on high alert these days, especially after the drone incident. Following this, Poland actually closed its border with Belarus. Poland, Latvia and Lithuania also closed part of their airspace. And all these countries are conducting military drills these days as well, with special attention to Suwałki Corridor. It's a stretch of land that connects Baltic states to the rest of Europe, and it's said to be one of the most vulnerable parts of NATO's eastern flank.
If the drills themselves raised eyebrows, it was the drone incursions that sent tensions soaring. On the night of September 9th into September 10th, Poland's military confirmed that 19 drones, believed to be launched from Russian territory, crossed into Polish airspace. Numerous drones were shot down as NATO fighter jets, including American F-16s based in Poland, rushed to intercept. This was the biggest significant breach of Polish airspace since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, according to Al Jazeera and the Polish Ministry of Defense. Polish officials promptly invoked Article 4 of the NATO treaty, calling the occurrence an act of aggression. Despite being one step below Article 5, which states that an attack on one NATO member is deemed an attack on all, that article permits any member state to request discussions with other allies when it feels threatened, as listeners may understand. The move underscores Poland's fear that Russia and Belarus are deliberately testing NATO's red lines. In response, Poland also expanded airspace restrictions across its eastern regions, banning civilian drone flights and limiting air corridors through December, as reported by the Moscow Times. NATO's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg stated that the alliance was monitoring the situation very closely and that Allied air defenses were ready to respond to any further violations. While Russia denied responsibility for the drone incursion, Poland's government said it had no doubt about Moscow's involvement, noting that the incident came just days before Zapad 2025 officially began. The standoff has now spilled into economics, and here is where the story truly starts to backfire on Moscow. Poland has severed one of the most crucial economic routes between China and the EU by permanently blocking the Belarusian border. Up to 90% of rail goods traveling from China to Europe go via Belarus and Poland before dispersing to countries like Germany, France, and the Netherlands, according to Euronews. A key component of China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, Xi Jinping's flagship effort to increase infrastructure and commerce connections throughout Eurasia, is this corridor. Since billions of euros worth of products now face delays or rerouting over far longer sea routes, the EU Commission said that it is closely monitoring potential economic fallout from the shutdown. Approximately $29 billion worth of Chinese exports pass through this rail route each year, according to a Bloomberg story last year, but exact numbers vary. In Belarus, where domestic purchasing power is insufficient to absorb the excess, containers are accumulating as a result of border closures. For Beijing, this is a nightmarish scenario. If Poland keeps the borders closed, its investments in Belarus and Western rail hubs are for nothing. Polish media, citing diplomatic sources, claim that Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has already gotten in touch with Warsaw to talk about options for restoring transit because of this. This is leverage for Poland. Officials openly say they want Beijing to use its influence on Moscow to reduce hybrid attacks, from drone incursions to the weaponization of migration that Belarus has orchestrated since 2021. If China wants its goods flowing again, Warsaw argues, then Xi Jinping must rein in Vladimir Putin and Alexander Lukashenko. The broader picture is that Poland is trying to turn Russia's intimidation campaign on its head. By mobilizing troops, closing borders, and internationalizing the crisis through NATO, Warsaw is signaling that it will not sit passively while Zapad 2025 unfolds at its doorstep. This serves as a test case for NATO's real-time crisis management capabilities. Is it possible for the alliance to prevent provocations from turning into open warfare? As a reminder of the stakes, Al Jazeera claims that the drills themselves even include the launch of cruise missiles and planes with nuclear capability. According to Politico Europe, the EU is considering limiting the travel of Russian nationals to Europe and is considering further penalties against Belarus. The Kremlin is attempting to stretch NATO's cohesion by establishing several sites of friction, including Poland's border, the Baltic Sea, and Ukraine, according to analysts like Gustav Gressel of the European Council on Foreign Relations. Yet by closing off the China-Europe trade lifeline, Warsaw may have found a pressure point that hurts Moscow indirectly. The question is whether China is willing to put genuine pressure on its Russian ally or if it will simply wait out the standoff. For now, Poland has declared that its border will remain closed indefinitely until it can guarantee no further threats from the east. That sets the stage for weeks, if not months, of economic disruptions, military posturing, and diplomatic maneuvering. A clear sign that Zapad 2025 has already achieved the opposite of what Moscow intended. Instead of intimidating Poland, it has galvanized NATO, rattled European markets, and placed new strains on China's Belt and Road ambitions.